I'm here with the boys from Carnation to talk about Cursed Mortality, out November 3rd on Season of Mist, their third record. I'm sure you guys are super excited to see this bad boy come out and fans be able to listen to it. Is there a mixture of being nervous and excited at the exact same time right now?
I think so, yeah. It's always quite an exciting moment when you release new stuff, new albums, new songs, and especially now, I guess, because yeah, the newer album sounds a little different than what we did previously. So it makes us quite nervous, like how would the people react to it, like we have quite an established death metal fan base. We added a little more elements from other genres and stuff like that. So yeah, it will be surprising. Yeah, we look forward to release it. That's for sure. Yeah.
Well, for whatever it's worth, I liked it a lot. So I,
Thank
it's
you.
just
Thank
one
you.
opinion, but I liked it a lot. I want to ask you guys about this because I thought this was, at least for me, this was an interesting element. This is the shortest record you guys have released to date.
Yeah, it is.
I went back and I checked the previous albums because I thought it was, but I didn't want to say that it was without checking. So I actually went back and checked. It works for me. I honestly feel for the sound that you guys created, for the design that you guys put together. The shortest record actually gives this album a lot more playability. You're not bored at the end of the album, which makes you want to go back to the beginning of the album versus feeling like, you know what, I need to take a break from this. It's been a little bit too long. When you guys were putting the record together, did the length of the album was something that you guys talked about, or it just happened to be shorter?
Well, we talked about it because we thought it was a little bit short because of the previous albums. But when we listened to the album, it was like, it's perfect. We don't need to add another song. We could add another song, but it was perfect like it was. So why should we add another one?
Yeah, I think we had another song where we skipped that one. It didn't fit too well into the whole album. And what happened previously, like with Chapel of Abhorrence, um, like the very last song on the album should have been Fathomless Depths, but the record company wanted us to add Power Trip as the very last one, as like a bonus track or something. And we agreed upon that in the end, but we never really liked that, like, but right now we thought about it, and it fits really well that's a little shorter, and it does. I hope it doesn't get too boring for people.
No, it
So
actually does the opposite. It actually, for me, it did the absolute opposite. Like I just felt like the record doesn't feel short. It feels like it has the right length, but at the same time, when you look at the length of the record, it just makes you want to listen to it more because you don't feel like you're investing too much time. You're investing just the right amount of time. I honestly feel like you guys really hit the nail on the head as far as the length of the album is concerned. And then you put Cursed Mortality at the end, which is a complete 180 from the rest of the record. And did that song, when you guys were putting the album together, you're like, okay, there's no way we can put this track anywhere else. This track got to be at the end. Was that the thought process?
Yeah, we did it with the last album too. That's Where Death Lies. We had like the last song was some special song, a longer one, and we feel it was like the right thing to do to place it at the end of the album. And yeah, it was the
Yeah,
best position.
due to its characteristics, I honestly can't think of another. If the album was longer, maybe you can squeeze it in the middle, but due to the
Yeah,
length of the
maybe.
record, I honestly felt like that was the best spot for it. When you guys were sitting down thinking about, okay, it's time to create a new record, what was the first thing that came to mind that you guys, okay, we have to do this?
I think it happened naturally. We wanted to do something more than only death metal. You can write a death metal records like 10 times, but it keeps it interesting for us to do other stuff because we are listening to other stuff also. We are not only listening to death metal. So and we love to create music, and it keeps it interesting for us when we can add other things, when we can create our own thing. You know, we already have like bands like Entombed, Dismember, Obituary, and there will never be another band as big as them in the same thing, you know. So we wanted to create our own thing, and yeah, let's see what happens.
When you guys were putting this record together, considering the changes that you guys mentioned already in the sound, considering the length of the record, that's another change considering previous albums.
Yeah.
Did that make the making of this album more challenging for you, or did these things actually simplify the processes?
This album was actually really hard to write. We struggled a lot with it, I think, because we were searching for a direction, and you don't know where it will end. And yeah, it was an interesting process, but a hard one.
Yeah. Also, I think an interesting time to write music as well, because everything was so uncertain. It was like right in the middle, close to the end of the pandemic. Like with the previous album, Where Dead Lies, we had a really cool chemistry because some of the songs we wrote together, like we rented a studio somewhere in the countryside in Belgium. We gathered together for 1 week and we started playing and started jamming together. And there was a whole chemistry between us all. And you can really feel that with that album. With this album, I think like, you know, my brother Jonathan here, he wrote all the riffs and songs, and he did that by his own because we weren't really able to see each other all too much, I guess. And you know, when a song was finished, they sent it over to me, and I started to write some drums to it. And when we thought it was cool, we showed it to the other guys. That was like the kind of process we went through with, I guess, all of the songs. Yeah.
Is that a process that you guys will continue in the future, or you know, the circumstances will change? You'll be able to get together. You'll be able to do a little bit more like you did in previous albums. So, is this going to be a one-off?
I think we will. I think we will go back to what we did with Where Dead Lies, like coming together to a studio and just focus 100% on writing music and jamming together. Like, um, this also really works well to us, I think, because like my brother and I, we used to do this all the time when we were like young kids. We used to jam together and write music, although it maybe wasn't very interesting back when we were like kids. But there is such a chemistry in that, and I think it's really cool. And I guess we will do that again at some point. Yeah.
One of the things that hit me immediately the moment I pressed play is that this album, compared to the previous records, it felt like it had a little bit of a grittier production behind it. Was that on purpose? And what are you guys trying to achieve with that more grittier sound that this album has?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was on purpose. That's a sure thing. We always love to have like a really good sound, and we never really were 100% happy with the sound that we had on previous albums. But with this one, we finally thought like, wow, you know, like we finally made it sound as we wanted to. Um, and yeah, I think it had to sound really heavy and dynamic at some points as well. And you know, our bass player, he recorded everything and he mixed everything. The mastering was done by, I think his name was Jewel Wanasek.
Yeah.
And you know, all this combined together made it really heavy. And yeah, we're so happy about the sound and the end result of that. Yeah.
Yeah, the sound was really interesting to me because listening to the album on the headphones, the grittiness of the sound, it's almost like I can see the guitar strings as you're playing them. Like you can hear like you could hear the vibration of the bass strings and of the guitar strings. So if you listen to the album on headphones and you close your eyes, it's almost like the guitars are right in front of you and the bass is right in front of you, and you could see the movement with every single chord, which adds a different kind of level of darkness and heaviness to the way the record comes across. Are you guys super satisfied with that experience? That's the experience that I'm getting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
I think we're really happy with how it came out this time, because like my brother said, the last albums we missed something in the guitars or something in the heaviness, and I think yeah, we achieved it with this album finally.
Definitely darker, definitely
Yeah,
grime. And before we talk about the drums, let's talk a little bit about the guitars, because I love the duality of the guitars, because you guys did something that I really enjoyed. You have a set of guitar sound that's really grimy, really heavy at the bottom, and then
yeah,
you infuse these really blackened, driven melodies and riffs over the top, beside it, like through it, like it creates this sense like it's fucking heavy, but at the same time, it's so freaking menacing and dark at the exact same time. And,
yeah.
and that allowed the heaviness, from my standpoint, it allowed the heaviness to be quite easier to digest. It's not an album that when you're listening to the songs feel like, my God, like this is hard to tell what's doing what. It kind
Yeah.
of thinned out the sound. Was that the idea behind having that duality of guitar sound?
Yeah, definitely. We wanted to add more like melodies to our songs because we missed that also on the previous albums. And the main influence of that was like caught somewhere in time from Iron Maiden. That album is like a lot of melodies, and I'm really in love with that. And I wanted to add that to the Carnation songs, but then more darker.
Yeah,
And I think,
definitely. And it makes the album hookier.
yeah,
Is this something that's okay with death metal, to make an album that has this kind of hooks?
it's okay to us. I don't know what people will think of it, but we're happy with it.
Uh, I'm happy with it too. Now, when it comes to the drums, where do you want the drum sound to be in order for the Carnation sound to really have to be at its peak?
Ooh, that's a hard one. Um, I'm the drummer, so I wanted to have drums up front. But um, I don't know, like it gotta have like a huge, like a big backbone to the rhythm and sound. You know, like a snare drum really coming through and hitting you in the face, something like that. Like double bass really hitting you at some point. Um, I don't know, like with this one, it finally sounds heavy as well. Um, it's straight to the point, and it's pretty precise. With our last album, we used a lot of the room mics, which has more like an open sound. But with this one, we wanted it to be like a little bit more focused. So it gets you really hard, I guess.
Yeah, it concentrates everything. It makes everything feel
Yeah.
more
Hmm.
more compact. We talked about those hooks, and I got to go back to that, because a lot of death metal bands lose a little bit track of that. Being brutal and heavy doesn't necessarily mean that the sound has to be like muddy and everything
Hmm.
together, like this big wall of sound coming at you. While that works on a track by track basis, to listen to a record that's always like that, it becomes a little bit too much for the listener. You guys are creating an album here that has, a sense of continuity from song to song, but at the same time there's a lot of ebbs and flows within the tracks. Like I said, a lot of hooks, both musically and vocally. This dynamic approach, does it give you more tools from a creative standpoint in terms of where you can go with your songs, and all the other influences that you always wanted to have, that now you can add to it because the sound itself is a little bit more open?
Mm, I don't know. Yeah. At first with the mastering, the sound was like really heavy and it was hitting you too much. And we I don't know, like for one song it was nice to listen to, but after two songs it was too much. And that kind of ruined the dynamic between songs. So we had that a little bit back to like yeah, normal heaviness or something. Um, but I don't know, yeah. It's I think it's interesting to get a lot of changes in the songs. Like it goes really heavy and then it goes down to a really dynamic part. And I, I think that's the way we wanted to go anyway. So
yeah, the main thing we like to do is not create death metal. We want to create good songs, and that's the main thing we like to do.
And where do you guys see Simon's vocals in this whole big picture of this record? Where does that come into mind? Do you guys think about his delivery, his tonality when you're putting the songs together? How does it all come together?
I think we already thought about clean vocals before writing this album, and even though on the previous album, the very last song on Where Dead Lies in Chasm the Abysmal has a little part of clean vocals in there, and I think when Jonathan started writing the new songs, he already had an idea like, okay, we got something really dynamic here, like this might be a cool part where he could do something with clean vocals and stuff, like, and I think maybe an influence from that could be like Edge of Sanity, maybe, because they also did like clean and heavy stuff, crawling at the same time at one song and stuff like this. I think, yeah, Jonathan, I think you already had an idea of that, right?
Yeah. Maybe Edge of Sanity, Opeth, stuff like that.
Mm.
They have like a good balance between death metal vocals and clean vocals, in my opinion, on some albums, of course. And that's something we like to create too. We like to experiment with that, and maybe we'll do it more in the future. We will see what happens. We
Yeah.
always try to create new stuff, new ideas, and yeah, let's see what happens.
Because the interesting thing about that is that now that you're mentioning the clean vocals, I almost forgot that there were any clean vocals on the record because the record is heavy. Now that you're mentioning, I'm like, oh yeah, there are some clean vocals, but because
Yeah.
you guys didn't overdo it, it doesn't feel like a complete departure from the past. It's just really nicely placed. So at the end of the record, for the listener, it's like, wow, heavy. So you're not really concentrating too much on it. It adds nice
Yeah.
dynamics, but it doesn't change the DNA of the band. At least I don't see it that way.
Yeah, that
Thanks
was, I
for
think,
that,
yeah.
man.
Maybe some people will think other will have another opinion on that, but we didn't want to lose like our old Carnation sound, you know. We wanted to keep that and do a little bit different things, because if we would like write an album that's totally different than the previous album, I don't know, we have our fan base, we would lose like a lot of people, I think. And now it's a little bit more, yeah, it's just two songs with clean vocals, I think. So I think it's okay for the fans too. I hope so.
Yeah, but at one point, like we kind of challenged the fans or the death metal fans with,
Yeah,
like releasing the two songs with clean vocals already as singles. A lot of people were already thinking like, oh man, this band is changing so much, and it won't be the band it used to be and stuff like that. But I think they just gotta give it a chance to listen to the whole album.
I agree. Once you listen to the whole album, those clean vocals kind of disappear in the whole haze of that
Mhm.
heavy harshness that comes through it. Do you guys spend a lot of time reading comments on the internet? I hope you don't.
We
sometimes.
do,
Actually, we do, because we're
but we
interested
don't.
in our own band. But yeah, we knew before that people will like, some people they will hate like clean vocals, of course, in death metal. And I know a lot of people are thinking like in boxes, you know. They like death metal and they like true metal and stuff, and they're not open to other stuff, and that's okay. Um, we don't have problems with that, but we are like very open. So, and we're okay with reactions that are not good, but we are reading them.
Yeah, I
Of
don't think
course.
we don't mind too much of that, but
No.
we like reading them. Some are interesting, but
Yeah.
some don't. but still, you know, you create this music because this is what we feel and what we think is, yeah, this is what we like to play and what we like to go to, and this is an expression of our influences that comes from very different places, and yeah, we just hope that people like it, and we totally understand if not everyone's accepting this or whatsoever, and still it's still a heavy album, you know. Like people are just, yeah, they haven't really heard the whole album, so it's hard to get a real reaction to it.
Is it hard to put the singles, to pick the singles? Like you said, like, you haven't, people don't hear the whole album. They get these singles and then they create an idea of what the album is based on the singles. Was it hard to choose which singles to put out?
Yeah, it was really hard. And we took like a big risk with the first single because that was Cursed Mortality, which is like a really long song. The intro is quite long and it has the clean vocal. So we were thinking like, why shouldn't we shock the people? Let's shock the people and let's see what happens. And yeah, we took that chance, and yeah, the directions were like quite okay. They were quite good.
Yeah, that track, is that a little bit of your nod? You mentioned Opeth before. Is that a little bit of your nod to Opeth? Because it feels a little bit Opethish.
Maybe at some point, the main influence of that song, like the clean guitars in the song, the influence from that came from bands like Queensryche. They have like some really cool clean guitars in their songs, and that's maybe an influence that I used in Cursed Mortality, but also Opeth, like the the balance between clean and death metal vocals, the clean stuff, the heavy stuff. So there's a lot of influences in that song, I think.
So let me ask you this. You guys talked about not being sure how the reaction is going to be to all of these changes on this record. But in my humble opinion, this is the best album you guys ever released. So
Thank you, man.
you're never going to please everybody. Like, that's
No,
a fact. You're never going to please
it's a fact.
everybody. But how much will this album dictate the future of the band? Are you guys going to look at the positive responses versus the negative responses, evaluate how you move forward? Or are you guys so happy with the outcome that regardless of what happens, this is the direction that you guys going to take?
I
think
think
it's
yeah, we are like really happy with how it came out, and I think the future will be interesting. And I think we will keep doing what we like, what we think is right. And yeah, I think we will still go in this direction.
yeah, it's always fun to read comments and listen to what people have to say, but it's always one person's opinion, and like YouTube reactions or something, there's just a few people reacting, and why do they do that? Because they got something to comment to, and but it's not everyone, you know. And still, I think like as a musician, you just like to create something that comes out of you emotionally, and that's where it goes, and that's where it's leading us to. So
I always say opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one. So I'm guilty of that all the time. And I always tell people that whenever I give my opinion, either be on an album review or on a reaction video, it's just my opinion. It doesn't make it true, and it doesn't invalidate other people's opinions. I mean, music is going to hit all of us differently. Like I said, for me, this is the best album you guys ever done. It just works for me as a listener. It may not work for somebody else, but that doesn't mean they're not right. Doesn't mean I'm right. It's just we're all different. We're all different.
Yeah.
true, yeah.
One last question for you guys. So now the album is scheduled to be released November 3rd on Season of Mist. And what's next for you guys? What are the plans? What can you share? Like some touring, some shows? What's going on?
There are some plans for tours, but there's like we can't tell a lot of that. But there will be a European tour happening in the future, next year maybe.
Yeah.
We also have other plans, but on the table, there's nothing. Yeah, we're busy with it right now. We're also already started writing on the fourth album. Yeah,
Wow.
we will be busy.
You guys will be busy. So let me just tell you this. Like in North America, outside of waffles and aborted, that's pretty much all we know about Belgium. So you guys need to you guys need to make your way to North America at some point in time. Because there's obviously a huge metal scene happening there with bands like yourselves, like I said, Aborted, Evil Invaders is another great band. You guys need to make your way to this side of the Atlantic and share some of your death metal sound.
Yeah, we know. It's not easy for a European band to come over to the US because of all the work permits and stuff. But I can tell you that we are working on it right now, and maybe in the future, the near future, we will see. But there's something on the table. Can't tell much about that. We will see what happens because it's really, really hard to get everything done, the paperworks and
financially.
We will see. We are working hard to make that happen.
Well, if you guys come to Toronto and you need a place to crash for the night, let me know. My door is always open to you guys. I have some waffles. It won't be the real shit. It won't be the real shit, or French fries for that matter. It won't be the real shit. But my door is always open. There's always a place for you guys to crash if you come to Toronto. Hit me up. And congratulations on Curse Mortality. No word of a doubt. Like, to me, this is the best record you guys have ever released.
Thank you, man. That really means a lot.
Yeah, man. Means a lot. Thank you so much for these kind words. Awesome,
my pleasure,
man.
my pleasure. All the best to you guys.
Cool, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
All the best.